Day one of the Holly Bobo murder trial was filled with drama. News Channel 5's Chris Conti was in Savannah and has more on this emotional day.
A calm spring morning in rural Decatur County, Tennessee. A 20-year-old nursing student steps outside her home for what should be a normal day. By nightfall, she would be gone, vanished without a trace. Her name was Holly Bobo. This is the story of her disappearance, the wreckage it left behind, and a case that would become one of the longest, most controversial investigations in Tennessee history. Holly Lynn Bobo was a 20-year-old nursing student at the Parsons Center of the University of Tennessee at Martin. She was born in October 12, 1990. She lived with her parents, Dana and Karen Bobo, and her brother in the small community of Darden. Friends described Holly as quiet, kind, and full of dreams. She had a bright future. And though she came from a humble background, she was working hard, studying, hoping to build a life beyond rural Tennessee. She was the cousin of the country singer Whitney Duncan. Her family was known, her life unremarkable, until the morning that would change everything. On the morning of April 13, 2011, Holly woke early to study for an exam. By 7:30 a.m., she had spoken with her boyfriend, Drew Scott, who was turkey hunting nearby on his grandmother's property. Bobo's parents had left for work by this point, and her brother, Clint, was still asleep. For a moment, everything seemed normal. But 12 minutes later, Holly made her last phone call. After that, only incoming calls. There was no reply, neither a message from Holly. A short time later, a neighbor heard a scream coming from the Bobo home, followed by silence. The neighbor called his mother to tell her about what he heard, and the mother, in turn, called Bobo's mother, Karen, at work. Meanwhile, Holly's brother, Clint Bobo, woke to the dogs barking. He looked outside and saw something no one should ever see. Through the garage door window, he saw Holly kneeling next to a man dressed head to toe in woodland camouflage. At first, Clint thought it was Holly's boyfriend, Drew. They looked like they were kneeled down, facing each other in the garage, and they were talking back and forth. Holly sounded very upset and heated. Drew was doing much of the talking, and she would answer back and things like that. Clint couldn't make out any of the words. He believed that the couple were breaking up. At some point, Karen called home and spoke to Drew. She told him that he's not Drew, that he should get a gun and shoot the man. Clint had asked if his mother wanted him to shoot Drew, still believing that the man was Holly's boyfriend. Karen called 911, but because she was calling from work, she reached a dispatcher for the wrong county. At home, Clint looked outside again and saw Holly walking with the man deeper into the woods. At this point, he noted that the man was larger than Drew. Clint tried to call his sister's cell phone as well as Drew's cell phone, but neither call was answered. When Karen called her house again, Clint told her what he witnessed and was instructed to call 911. Clint ran inside, grabbed a loaded gun, and went outside, where he found bloodstains belonging to Holly in the garage. He dialed the police, and they arrived at the residence 10 minutes later. Cell phone pings showed Holly's cell phone moving away from her home tower, heading north. Clint's description of the man would become critical. 5 to 10 to 6 feet tall, 180 to 200 pounds, having dark hair sticking out from under his cap that was long enough to cover his neck and touch his collar. The man was wearing full camouflage, which had a pattern approximate to mossy oak leafy. Clint described the man's voice he heard as very deep and low. Investigators combed through every tip. They found Holly's lunchbox, a school receipt, a note card from her school, her cell phone, and a SIM card, which had been removed from the phone. Her last known cell tower pings took her phone north, then west, then south, then the trail vanished somewhere near a wooded area off Interstate 40. At first, suspicion fell on a registered sex offender, Terry Britt, a man whose name came up and whose background matched part of the description. His home was wiretapped, searches were conducted, but no charges were ever filed. Still, the trail seemed to grow colder with each passing day. Nearly 3 years after Holly vanished, in September 2014, a pair of ginseng hunters stumbled across human remains in a remote wooded area of northern Decatur County.
In his own words, and for the very first time, we are hearing from the man who found Holly Bobo's remains.
Larry Stone was actually out hunting the woods for the herb ginseng when he made that gruesome discovery.
Which was not far from the route Holly's phone data indicated, just off I-40. nearly 20 miles from Darden. The owner of the property, Gary Tubbs, said it was not uncommon for people to hunt there without permission. Larry Stone, one of the men who found the remains, said he saw a large bucket in the woods, which he upturned. Beneath the bucket, he found a human skull. He then spotted Bobo's remains spread on the ground behind him. Authorities recovered partial remains: a skull, ribs, teeth, a shoulder blade, which were enough to confirm via DNA that the body belonged to Holly Bobo. Forensic examination ruled her death a homicide caused by a gunshot wound to the back of the head, the bullet entry fracturing the left cheek after exiting the skull. Her disappearance was no longer a mystery, it was murder. By 2014, investigators had arrested 6 men in connection with the case. They were Zachary Adams, his brother John Dylan Adams, Jason Autry, plus others including Shane Austin, Jeffrey Piercy, and Mark Piercy. Charges ranged widely from especially aggravated kidnapping, first-degree murder, rape, and evidence tampering. Another 2 men, Jeffrey and Mark Piercy, were arrested on charges of accessory after the fact and tampering with evidence. However, charges against the Piercy brothers were dropped. Another man, Shane Austin, committed suicide. In early arrests, prosecutors said a confession from John Dylan Adams, who claimed to have witnessed Holly with the others after her abduction, was the key lead. He told the police that witnessed Bobo alive with his brother at Zach's home after her abduction. An affidavit for a search warrant states that Dylan told authorities that on April 13, 2011, he went to Zach's residence to get his truck. Dylan reportedly observed Holly Bobo sitting in a green chair in the living room, wearing a pink t-shirt, with Jason Autry standing just a few feet away. He also told the police Zach was wearing camouflage shorts, black cut-off sleeve t-shirt, and a pair of green Crocs. Dylan also said that Zach told him he had raped Bobo and videotaped it. The alleged videotape has not been found. Dylan later recanted the confession and alleged that he was coerced, but his confession led to the arrests of Zach Adams, Jason Autry, and Shane Austin. In early 2017, it was announced that Jason Autry had agreed to testify against Zach in exchange for leniency. Shane Austin was initially offered immunity in exchange for information regarding the location of Bobo's body. Phone records indicate that Austin was in contact with Adams several times on the day of Bobo's abduction, and police believe that Austin helped dispose of the body. The agreement was withdrawn after Austin was unable or unwilling to lead them to the body. In February 2015, Austin was found dead from suicide in a hotel room in Bartow, Florida. Austin's attorney blamed the suicide on continual threats of prosecution, as well as investigators' witch hunt style, saying they relied on rumors instead of evidence. The attorney insisted that Austin had nothing to do with the murder and cooperated fully with the police. In July 2014, Jeffrey Piercy and his brother, Mark Piercy, were arrested and charged with accessory after the fact and tampering with evidence. They were arrested on the basis of allegations made by Sandra King, Jeffrey's former roommate. She claimed that in May 2014, Jeffrey showed her part of a video in which Adams assaulted Bobo, who was tied up and crying. King told the police that she watched only a small clip and did not see the sexual assault. Sandra King alleges that Mark Piercy shot the video. Both brothers deny that a video existed, and Jeffrey denies knowing the other men who were arrested for the crime. He claims that he was unable to hear Sandra during a phone conversation and that his ex-wife's name is also Holly. Charges against both men were subsequently dropped. But from the start, the case was tainted by inconsistencies. The confession didn't match the forensic evidence. Autopsies, DNA, cell phone data were all limited. There was no video and no definitive physical proof linking each suspect to the crime scene. Defense attorneys would later call the investigation chaotic, which was plagued by delays, withheld evidence, and conflicting testimonies. In 2017, after years of pleadings, delays, and public pressure, the first and only trial in the case began: the state versus Zachary Adams. Central to the prosecution's case was Jason Autry, a friend of Adams and a convicted felon, who testified that he witnessed the abduction, helped dispose of evidence, and saw Adams shoot Holly before dumping her body near a river beneath an interstate bridge. According to Autry, after realizing Holly was still alive, Adams shot her in the back of the head to silence her. The body was hidden, burned, and dumped. The narrative presented at trial was that Austin and the Adams brothers went to the Bobo residence to teach Clint Bobo to make methamphetamine, an allegation that Bobo denies. Holly Bobo came out of the home screaming and hollering, and the men then abducted her. The prosecution alleged that Austin was the man whom Clint Bobo had described as walking into the woods with his sister, as he was the only one of the men who was close to the size of the man he had described. The three men were alleged to have raped Holly Bobo in a local barn owned by Austin's grandmother. 2 pieces of paper belonging to Holly Bobo, a receipt and a note card, were found on the road where Austin lived. The receipt was found 75 feet from his driveway. The prosecution also presented other pieces of circumstantial evidence linking Zach Adams to the murder, including that he drove a white truck. A neighbor of the Bobo family had seen a white truck driving rapidly on the morning of the murder. A number of witnesses testified that Adams made statements implicating himself in Bobo's disappearance. Adams' then-girlfriend, Rebecca Earp, testified that he would tie her up just like he did Holly Bobo, and nobody would ever see her again. Zach Adams also allegedly threatened his brother after his arrest that he would put him in a hole beside her if he didn't keep his mouth shut. A gun listed as a long revolver was introduced into evidence by the prosecution. A local man, Victor Dinsmore, led police to the gun, claiming that Austin and Autry sold him the weapon in exchange for drugs. The gun was reportedly found in a body of water. Forensic tests on the weapon failed to find any DNA or fingerprints, and prosecutors were unable to link the gun to the case with ballistics. Despite no DNA, no video, and a lack of forensic evidence directly linking Adams to the crime, the jury convicted him on first-degree murder, aggravated kidnapping, and aggravated rape. On September 23, 2017, Zachary Adams was sentenced to life in prison without parole, plus 50 additional years. Meanwhile, John Dylan Adams, though never tried, accepted an Alford plea in 2018 and was sentenced to 35 years. Autry, who cooperated with prosecution, was released in 2020 after serving a reduced sentence under his plea deal. The case seemed closed. Justice served, or so it appeared. The family of Dylan Adams, who is mentally disabled, claimed that they kept him up all night, would not give him anything to eat or drink, and finally he asked what they wanted him to say. According to family members, Dylan has some ability to read, but cannot perform other tasks, such as telling time, and they believe that Dylan is being manipulated. At the trial for Zach Adams, it was alleged that the state used unethical investigatory techniques to coerce a confession from his brother. In 2014, Dylan Adams was arrested on federal gun charges that would have ended in a lengthy prison sentence. The prosecutor, who is also handling the Bobo case, arranged a no-jail plea on the condition that he go live with a retired police officer, Dennis Benjamin, whom Dylan did not know. 5 weeks later, Benjamin called 911 to report that he had someone in his home who wanted to confess to the murder of Holly Bobo. Despite the fact this confession led to the arrests, much of what Adams confessed to did not match the evidence. Dylan Adams' mother claims that there was extensive coercion in his interrogation. Zach Adams' defense attorney, Jennifer Thompson, contended that the initial suspect in the case, Terry Britt, was the real killer, saying that he has never been cleared by the police, and in fact, it appears the government has more evidence of his guilt than it does of the 3 defendants charged in the present case. Britt is a convicted sex offender who has been convicted of multiple rapes. It was argued at trial that Britt fit the physical description and had a history of stalking blonde women. Clint Bobo also identified a voice sample of Britt's voice as being very similar to the voice he had heard that morning. Dykes testified that Britt had fabricated an alibi. Britt told investigators that his wife stayed home from work that morning to help him install a bathtub. Through the investigation, Dykes discovered that Britt's wife, Janet, had gone to work that morning, but Britt called and made her leave on the biggest news day of the county's history. The Britts did produce a handwritten receipt for the bathtub, but the store had no record of the sale. According to Dykes, Britt's wife had been with him on previous occasions when Britt had stalked girls. Dykes also testified that after the Bobo abduction, Britt allegedly changed his appearance by cutting his hair. Closing. In 2017, Duncan released a song called Better Place in memory of Bobo. Holly Bobo, as a human being, deserved better than to disappear into the woods. If the past convictions were wrong, Who killed Holly Bobo? If not them, is the real killer still out there, and will he ever be found?